If France is really so determined to see a Palestinian state, I've got a suggestion for them. Carve out a piece of the French Riviera and create a Palestinian state. They're welcome to do that, but they're not welcome to impose that kind of pressure on a sovereign nation.
That is dynamite bassist and ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, back in May when he was in when France was taking initial steps to recognize Palestinian statehood. We'll get into more of what he said, of what he had to say about it. But first, some news about France's announcement this week. President Emmanuel Macron, according to the New York Times, announced late Thursday that France would recognize the state of Palestine as part of its, quote, historical commitment to a just and durable peace in the Middle East. Continuing, today, the most urgent thing is that the war in Gaza cease and the civilian population be helped, Macron said. His statement came as anger mounted across the world over the continued Israeli military occupation in Gaza. Operation in Gaza, I should say, and growing starvation there. Now, this is significant in that France is the first of the G7 nations to recognize Palestinian sovereignty, but some advocates and experts think it won't amount to much. We'll get into some of their comments shortly, but first, Cenk, what to make of this move by Macron?
Yeah, so first of all, vive la France. So thank you, France, for at least getting on the right road. Every nation on earth should recognize Palestine as a country. It's unconscionable that they don't. They should put a world of pressure on Israel. By the way, how did Israel become a country? Well, the United Nations declared it a country. So the United Nations should do the same exact thing. And the Palestinians actually tried this route a couple of years back. And then they were called terrorists for using diplomacy. Because it doesn't matter. If you're a Palestinian, they're gonna call you a terrorist no matter what you do. They say, this is unacceptable. They were so furious. How dare you try to do the thing that we did? So no, why does anybody listen to Israel? Unless it's corruption, there is no other logical answer. If there was normal times and Israel's a normal country, then of course, well, yeah, we're good relationship, allies, no problem, God bless, right? But in the middle of them ethnically cleansing and killing these people and now starving them, why would we care what they think? Oh, this is going to anger Israel, so Norway shouldn't declare the Palestinians human and that they should have sovereignty like every other human being in the world? Ireland should be quiet. No one else should be allowed to say anything about Israel. Why? Why is Israel the one magical country no one is allowed to say anything about? What an absurd idea. So I love what France did, and they should do it 10 times. Everybody should do it. And then on top of that, they should all send government official flotillas with food and medical assistance to Gaza. And they should dare Israel to attack NATO. Go ahead, I'm sending a French ship filled with food to starve those people, to feed the people you're starving to death. Because I'm not gonna let you do it. We said never again, and France knows never again, and this is never again. I dare you to sink that French ship, okay? But they won't because they're afraid of Israel. I don't know why what's there to be afraid of? What are they gonna do, nuke you? There's only one explanation, and that's corruption. Here in America, it's super obvious, but thank God in France, they at least are independent enough to say this. Now, Mike Huckabee saying, can you believe France is trying to put pressure on a sovereign nation? Oh, I know, Israel would never put pressure on America. They're so clean. So like, or is Huckabee saying Israel is allowed to pressure America, Israel is allowed to pressure France, Israel is allowed to pressure every country, but no one is allowed to pressure Israel? Why? Why? They never answer why. What an absurd double standard for only one country. Nobody would say, oh, I can't believe that people are pressuring Iran. I can't believe people are pressuring Russia. I can't believe people are pressuring Turkey. Or France. Everyone can be pressured except Israel, not only. Last thing for me for now, and I want to, because I really want to hear what Jules says. But this idea of like, why don't the French take them? The French should take them to the French Riviera. Okay, when you're doing ethnic cleansing, you are moving people out from where they live to take their land. Saying, okay, then why don't they move somewhere else so we could take their land does not solve the problem at all. It is the problem. And I'll give you an example. If in the middle of the Armenian genocide, the Turks were like, oh, if the French are so worried about us slaughtering the Armenians, well, why don't they give them an Armenia in the French Riviera? people will be like, are you mental? No, they should stop killing them and let them keep their homes and don't take their land. But when it comes to Israel, oh yeah, why don't you give them the French Riviera, Palestinians the French Riviera and let Israel take the land? No, that's a mental thing to do. That's like saying, why don't we help them in their ethnic cleansing? Oh, right, that's exactly what America's doing right now.
I mean, I think that the idea that Macron is coming out to say this, that France is coming out with this position is amazing because it reflects the global pressure that people who support Palestinians are putting on the world is working. I mean, Macron is a center-right neoliberal. Like, he doesn't really have a strong reason politically to do this other than the fact that to anybody who's watching what's happening, the answer to what the right side and the wrong side is obvious unless you have, as you pointed out perfectly, a corrupt stake in the process. I'm Jewish, you know, me and a lot of other Jews look at the situation and say, Israel emphatically does not speak to my interests or support what I believe in. A lot of, you know, I live in New York. A lot of New York Jews, we just voted in Mamdani. We love him despite all the slander against him regarding, you know, his position on Israel, which so many of us share. So I think seeing this and seeing what happens when you can separate from the corrupt influence, when you can separate from the weird political environment that America is living in, that frankly a lot of Europe is living in as well, it becomes really clear why France is taking this step forward, because otherwise they are just on the wrong side and they know it. I mean, there's you know, it's this narrative that Palestinians are terrorists and all Palestinians are members of Hamas, and again that this collective punishment is reasonable and justified and you know, it supports some kind of peace is insane. Palestinians are stateless, occupied people for decades, and it is Israel's fault. And now they are being slaughtered on a level that they have not been slaughtered at in their history. And so when we all watch this happening, it's at the very least the tiniest bit refreshing to see a major world power, a NATO member, step in and say, yeah, you guys are wrong. This is horrifying, and they are a legitimate people with a legitimate right to their land. I actually don't know if that's how far they're going to say that they have a legitimate right to their land, but even any movement here is good. Any movement here could maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, given enough momentum, slow down or even, God willing, stop the genocide. You know, obviously I think what France is doing is symbolic at best, but even that symbolism is better than nothing. You know, watching what the US is doing is again horrifying and terrible, and you know, it's the least that a single country could do is at least recognize the Palestinians' right to exist.
Yep. So I'm just gonna kind of fill in some of the blanks in here. So after news of Macron's decision broke, reporters asked Trump for his take, and this was Trump's response to that.
Counterproductive to France, for France to say that they would recognize the Palestinian state. Macron said that yesterday.
Look, he's a different kind of a guy. He's okay. He's a team player, pretty much. But here's the good news: what he says doesn't matter. You know, it's not going to change it. Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy. I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
All right, so he's a good guy. He's a team player who just contradicted you, who are supposed to be the leader of the team, but also it doesn't matter because his opinion doesn't matter anyway. Cenk, your response to that?
I mean, classic Trump, but in that case, he's not wrong. We're the ones funding the genocide, so it doesn't really matter what France does. It matters what we do. And I just want to comment on what Jules said really quickly. Guys, when we say over and over again on the show that don't make it about religion, this is about a foreign government, it isn't about Jews. That's not just saying that as a political correctness or whatever. That's factual, right? So the peace movement had so many Jewish Americans in it from day one. I don't want to list everybody, etc., but who's the #1 defender of Palestinians in my lifetime in American politics? It's actually not Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar. It's Bernie Sanders, right? He's the first guy and a presidential candidate. In a debate, when he said it, I couldn't believe it. He started talking about Palestinians like they were human beings. And you think like, what? That's so simple and the bare minimum. But no politician in my lifetime had ever done that. I was floored by it, right? And I can give you 1,000 examples. Robert Greenwald with an amazing movie, and you should please check it out at bravenewfilms.org. It's about journalists that have been killed by Israel in Gaza. Jules is 100% right. That's the moral movement the Jewish Americans have always been part of. And we all got to stick together as Americans and say, not on our watch, not now, not ever. We said never again, and we can't do this. We all got to work together to stop this genocide, and don't listen to Trump, don't listen to our politicians. Actually be the good, decent people that I know Americans are. Fight back against this, and somehow, miraculously, let's try to win. Because if Macron doesn't have a voice, at some point, the American people need to have a voice and say, that's enough. If you're not gonna stop this, we're done with you. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.